Hello everyone, in this video I will show you how to go from 500 to 1000 with easy and simple tips. We will divide this video in three sections, opening, middle game and end game, and for each section I will give you some advice and some tips in order to improve in that category. So, for opening, I will tell you what is, for me at least, the openings that are better for the range 500-1000. For the middle game, I will give you some advice to concretize an advantage or to create weaknesses. And for the end game, some general advice. So, let's start. So, in order to improve, it's better to play longer games, like the rapid ones, 10+0, 10+5, but even 15+10. The brief games are not so good to improve because there is not so much time to think, and there isn't enough time to fix in a good way the scheme, the pattern of chess. So, rapid ones. Then, for the opening, there are some general concepts and some general rules. Now with the engine you can play whatever you want if you check on Stockfish, but I suggest you to don't play moves like b3 or g3 for the first move, like the Catalan, but maybe some other moves like d4, e4, or for black e5, c6, d5, moves like that, because there are some concepts like the control of the center that are easier to understand at lower level instead with, for example, with the accelerated dragon in the Sicilian defense. The concept of controlling the center is still there, but in a stranger way. It's not a direct control, but a control by distance. So I think there are easier opening for the players in the range of 500-1000, and this is what we will going to see now. I will show you for opening, two opening and two defenses, for d4, e4, and the replies for black. So let's start. Before starting, other basic concepts for the opening are develop minor pieces first and then heavy pieces. First concept. The second one is don't move too much pawns in the opening and don't move too many times the same piece in the opening if you don't have a good reason. So let's start. Okay, so this is what happens if you don't develop your pieces in a correct way. We are white and our opponent is black. We open with e4, e6, knight f3, queen f6 is already a strange move because the natural developing square for the knight is f6, and now the queen is there, so we have d4 striking the center and control the center with the pawns. And here after knight e7 we have knight c3, and if black tries to strike in the center we simply have e5, and after knight h4 the queen is trapped and we win. So another concept. And this is what happens if you don't castle. Here the attack of white will work only because black started the action before castling. So here we have again e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6, knight c3, knight c6, and just normal moves. Here we are developing the minor pieces first, and after castle, black decide to not castle but start the action with the king in the middle, and here we have d5. But d5 is wrong for a tactical sequence with e takes, knight takes, knight takes. Now the knight is pinned, and after bishop d7 we can simply move our queen on h5, and if black decide to castle we can grab a free piece and we win. And now let's start with the first opening, d4. Okay, if you like to open with d4, the opening that I suggest you is the London system, a really easy opening, and well, it's a system, so it's not let's say a forced sequence of moves. We want to place our pieces and our pawns in a structure, and black can't do so much about it. Then there is a lot of theory if you want to play in a good way, but for the opening stage is really solid and really easy to remember. So we have d4, d5, and the London system is this one in which we place our bishop on f4, and we build this structure with the pawn on e6 and on c3. So after knight f6, let's say e6, knight f3, bishop d6, here bishop g3. If black takes, is not a problem, because we will take back with the h-pawn, and we will start an attack on the king side. So here we have castle, bishop d3, knight, for example, knight c6, and c3. And this is the London system. Later on in the game, we will develop our knight on d2, we will castle. If the black bishop takes, we will take back with h-pawn, and maybe queen c2. And is really easy to understand. And for example, I would say that most of the times the plan in the middle game for white side is to strike with e4, and if it's possible with e5 at the right moment. And well, what else to say? This opening is really annoying for black side, because I face it a lot of times, and there is not really a good way or a perfect way to reply with this opening, because white will do this stuff, and the plan for white is really easy with e4, e5, yet not so simple to stop. So if you like d4, try the London system. Let's go with e4. Okay, with e4, I suggest you to play, well, it depends a lot on what black plays, but for example, e4, if we have a symmetrical variation with e5, I suggest you to go for the Italian game, if it's possible, and the Italian game is knight f3, knight c6, and bishop c4. With bishop c4, we enter in the Italian game, and there are a lot of lines, a lot of ideas for white, but also for black, and the plan is enough simple, I have to say. We want to control the center, and if it's possible, here we have d3, bishop c5, castle, and knight c3, and we want to place our bishop on g5, and then try to expand slowly. It's not a crazy opening, it's not a crazy opening, but well, if black doesn't know his theory, for sure he will lose in a couple of moves. But generally speaking, with the concept that I told you in the beginning of this video, here we achieved everything. We are controlling the center, we develop our minor pieces. We developed the bishop first because we wanted to castle as fast as possible. And then we will develop the light square bishop, connect the rooks, and start the action. But just to show you some idea, here we have rook e8 and bishop g5. And well, here black is already... it's not so easy to reply for black. After h6 and bishop h4, try to keep the pin. The best move is bishop e7, but is really unlikely that your opponent will play bishop e7. And here, if there is something like, for example, like d6, we already have bishop knight d5, try to take advantage of the f6 knight that is pinned. And if black replies with g5, we can even sacrifice, and here we are completely winning. But just some traps that can occur in this position. For yeah, here black replied with e5, but there are a lot of replies for obvious reason. I can't show all the replies in this video, but if you are interested, I did videos about the Sicilian defense, the French defense, a lot of videos. So if you want to check my channel, let's go with the black replies. Okay, with the black, it depends on e4 or d4. There are ideas also of c4, but you can play c6, c6 anyway on c4. I can't cover everything in just one video. But let's say e4, that is one of the two most common moves. With e4, I suggest you the Caro-Kann. Why I suggest you the Caro-Kann? Because it's an easy defense with easy ideas. Fight for the center, develop the pieces, and well, only for these two reasons that I think are good reasons. So d4, d5, and after e5 is one of the replies, is the advanced Caro-Kann. Here we can play bishop f5, and now that the bishop is gonna go, I don't know, on f5, we will play e6, and we will build this structure with the pawn on e6, d5, and c6 to replace the control that the light square bishop has on the light square. And later on, well, here there are other ideas, but for example, knight f3, e6, and after bishop d2, we will play c5. And I will go a bit further with this video, and then I will tell you why. c3, and we will develop our pieces normally. And after this one, we can already think of moving the knight, for example, on e7, and then maybe the bishop on g4. Okay, so this thing that I'm saying, it should go on the middle game strategy, but well, I will tell you anyway. c5 is made to destabilize white center. This is an advanced structure, and we want to destabilize the center of white by trading this pawn with the d4 pawn, and then moving the bishop on g4 to trade the bishop with the knight that is controlling the base of the pawn chain. But anyway, this is a middle game strategy and pawn structure. Again, if you are interested, I did a video about the pawn structure. Let's go with the reply for d4. Okay, with d4, everything is easier. We will do kind of symmetrical defense. With d4, I suggest you c6. There are a lot of replies, but the good thing is that maybe your opponent in this position will play e4, and you will enter in a Caro-Kann. So you will study one defense for two things. A better approach, but if your opponent doesn't go for that, he can go maybe for c4, and here we will control the center with d5, and again we will develop our pieces normally. If knight f3, we will develop the knight, for example, on f6, or if knight c3, we will again e6, knight f3, knight f6, bishop g5, bishop e7, and castle, and then we will think on what to do. Here we can already go for knight d7 and for some trades, but the counter side for this type of structure is that the light square bishop is not the best of the world, but with a correct and not so hard play, we can develop also the dark square bishop. So for the opening is everything. I wanted to give you openings with easy ideas, easy control of the center, and easy developing plans. Maybe the hardest one was c5, but the Caro-Kann with the idea of c5. But if you understand that you have to cause problems at the base of the pawn chain, this becomes easier to understand, and you can already have a plan for the middle game. Now let's go to the middle game. For the middle game, the situation is a bit different, because it depends from a lot of factors: the opening, which pieces are on the board, what is the pawn structure, but I can't give you a rule that works 100% of the time, but a rule like that, it doesn't exist in chess in general, but there are some general rules, also some general concept also in the middle game. So an advice is a thing that I also do, is when you exit from the opening, so when you complete your opening stage, a good thing can be the one of pause for not too much, but 20-30 seconds, something around that, and ask yourself what are the weaknesses on the position. And why is this helpful? Because if you understand the weaknesses of your opponent, you can come out with a plan to develop the pieces, and with experience you can also understand which pieces you should trade and which pieces you should not trade. So some things to focus on the middle game are the pawn push, so the pawn breaks, so how can the pawn structure change, which pieces is what piece is a good piece and which is a bad piece. But no more words. Now what we will going to do is look for three position. One with an isolated pawn, not the pawn on d4, but another one that come out from an opening like the Ruy Lopez, the Spanish game. The second one will be a double pawn on the b file, yeah. And the third one will be an endgame in reality, but an endgame with pieces. And we will understand the difference between good pieces and bad pieces. So, if you like, you can, I will tell you when, you can pause the video and try to try to search for a plan in order to win or to concretize the advantage of the position. Let's start. This is the first game that came out from a Spanish game, from Ruy Lopez, so I will go a bit fast in this section. We are just developing the pieces and striking the center, and here again develop, okay, and a4, and here black does his first inaccuracy and takes. This is not an error, but we can take back, he defend the bishop, the knight, sorry, we strike, and here we don't trade, but we bring back our bishop. Okay, and why is that an inaccuracy? I'm telling you this stuff because the games of chess can finish for two reasons. Because your opponent blunder a piece, and this happen most on lower level, or because you simply outplay your opponent, or your opponent outplays you. I'm not taking in consideration the one that is blundering a piece, because if he blunders a piece, you should just take it, and this is another advice, that is study tactics. Tactics are essential for chess, but not only at lower level, but until grandmaster level. If you are not able to do tactics, it will be really hard to win chess games. And for the tactics, well, you can do it on chess, you can also do it on Lichess, for example. On Lichess are also free, if you want, if you like chess, just chess.com, I mean, just do a free account on Lichess and do your puzzle there, because on chess you have to pay, so nothing. Okay, so here this is an inaccuracy, because the pawn on a6 is isolated, and it will not be so easy for black to defend that pawn while the game keeps going on, because a lot of, well, in general, the pieces, the black pieces, should stay on the left side of the board, or on the queen side, to defend that pawn. But if they are there, it means that you can, at the right moment, you can shift your play and the king side. You can put pressure on the a6 pawn and shift the play on the king side when is the time. And black pieces will be stuck there to defend that weakness and will not arrive in time to defend the king. Or they will defend the king and you will be up a pawn. So here we have other moves, just to show you. Here bishop c8, so the knight can come back into the game. And here another developing move. Okay, and this is the moment. So if you want, you can pause the video for as much as you like, and try to come out with a plan. I will pause for 2 seconds to give you the time. Okay, so here white plays bishop a4. Why bishop a4? Because, well, if black just goes back with the knight, then we have bishop c6, and the rook has to go on a7, because on b8, on b8 it will be a problem for b4. And now we are fixing the pawn structure, and this pawn will become is even weaker. And in some moves by coordinate the pieces, we will be able to win that pawn. Like, for example, with sequence like bishop takes. If now white has to move, bishop takes. If he takes with the knight, we can take the rook. And if he takes with the pawn, there is another weakness on the structure. And if he takes instead with the queen, we can take this knight, bishop takes, and then the pawn falls. So knight d7 is not the best option, but let's see, for example, bishop d7. On bishop d7, the question is, should you trade your light square bishop? And the answer is yeah. Yeah, because this bishop is really helpful to defend this this a6 pawn. So I will show you. So after trade, we will push b4 to block the pawn structure, to fix it, and then we will develop our rooks in order to we will coordinate our rooks to threaten the a6 pawn, and this pawn simply falls. Here we can, here we can take, and we are simply up a pawn. So this is the first plan. For example, what happens with an isolated pawn on the side of the board. Let's go to the double pawn. And with the double pawn, the situation is this. I will not show you the opening. I just set a board. So if you want, you can pause the video again, come out with a plan, and then restart the video. I will give you 2 seconds. Okay, here we have to be careful about one thing, essentially, to not trade too much pieces, because at playing correctly, if you trade too much pieces, it can be a draw. But we can trade, okay, here we can trade one piece, and after the knight takes, we can trade the queen, and we can trade also the knight. And this is not a draw, because black has 2 weaknesses, and is another general idea. Usually, one weakness is not enough to win the game. Sometimes, yeah, but usually it can be a draw. But with is the rule of the 2 weaknesses. With 2 weaknesses, we can win this game. And how can we win it? By just b3, by targeting the pawns on via c7. We played the b3 because if we go right now, here there is rook check, king here, rook check again, and after king g3, black will take a pawn. So we will not hurry up, and we will simply play first b3. And after that, if the rook moves, we will improve the position of our king, maybe fix the pawn structure, and I will not show you the end of this game. But by improving the position of the king, we will enter in the position, and at the right moment, we can even ask to our opponent, do you want to trade also the rook? And if your opponent agrees, is a bad choice, because this endgame with no rooks is completely winning for white, because simply the pawn structure is better and the king will march up the board and will collect these pawns. So let's see the third part. And the third part is this. So, why to move? Feel free to pause the video and come out with a plan. Okay, the plan here, the situation is a bit different from before, but I will just give you an idea. This is there is nothing, there is not something like collect a pawn or be up a pawn in this situation, but there is a situation in which for sure white will be the one to put all the pressure. And if you check about bad pieces and good pieces, our pawn structure is on black and is fixed also on not on black, on dark square, sorry, and is also fixed. It means that if black has only the bishop, black will not be able to target any of our pawn, and the knight will jump everywhere and inside the black position. So here actually the right move is trade, and here we collect also the knight. This is not necessary, but we can do it. And after, for example, king h2 and king, we march the king on f4 for one reason, just to prevent some pawn push from black side. And here the situation is not easy at all for black because, well, black can't threaten anything in the position of white, and we will be able to infiltrate. Then playing correctly is not a huge advantage, is a small advantage, but practically speaking, these endgames are really a nightmare for black. So a good strategy also for winning your games is put yourself in situation in which you cannot lose, and you will be the one that put all the pressure and on the clock and also on the board. So now let's go to the endgame stage. Well, for the endgame, I can't say you so much because there is really a lot of stuff to know, but we can say some things like there are some endgames that are really common and really important, other more than others. And for example, in this endgame here, the situation is a draw, even if we are up a bishop and a pawn. It doesn't matter if it's white to move or black to move, because the light square bishop is of the wrong color of the promotion square. So this is a draw, but this is winning instead, because the pawn will promote on the right square. So this is an example of an endgame that is really helpful to know, to draw, and also to not finish in this position if you are white. Another really important endgame is the one king and pawn versus king, and here the concept of opposition is the key factor. So here, if is white to move is simply a draw, because after, for example, king e5 follows king e7. But actually, if is black to move, here black will move on e8, and after e7, the black king can come back in this situation, can come back in this square, and has to go here. But after king d7, we will promote a pawn. And here, if it's white to move, we can't push, because after king e8 and king e6 is a stalemate. So this is a really important endgame to know, even if we are not in this situation, but the pawns are, for example, if the pawn is still on the second rank, is really important to know how to not end up in this situation, or how to end up in this situation if you are the one down a pawn. And another important endgame, and the last one that I want to show you, is the rook and pawn versus rook endgame. Is not a basic one, is a more advanced level, but I mean, if there is something to study and you want to improve, You can also look for more advanced stuff that for sure is not a bad thing, and for sure if you are in this journey of improvement, this stuff will be really helpful for you. So, nothing much to say. I hope you like this video. I hope you find it helpful. I will do definitely other videos about other range, like the range 1000, 1500 or 1500, 2000 and nothing. So, hope you like the video. See you in the next video.